Okay, you can pause that and we'll pick it up when we start.
Got it.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mike Serra. I'm the Executive Director of the New Jersey State League of Municipalities. Thank you for joining us today for our afternoon late lunch and learn. Hope you all have been able to get outside, maybe on an extended lunch, and enjoy this beautiful day, because we're going to keep you occupied for the next couple of hours with a very interesting and timely topic. Today's topic is the State Planning Commission and the development of a new state plan. I know the Office of Planning Advocacy is doing a listening tour right now and working on the development of a new plan. So again, just a couple of housekeeping items I'd like to point out. We are recording, as you heard, the Lunch and Learn. It will be made available on our website, if not later today, more likely tomorrow morning. We'll try to see if we can get any of the PowerPoint presentations and other materials along that as well. Today we'll be hearing about the State Planning Commission and how it has embarked on the updating the State Development and Redevelopment Plan. And this is a side note. I was actually around the last time this plan was done in 2001. Donna's laughing. Yes, I was there. I was in the audience. I was the one working it for the league. So I've come full circle. With that, you will learn about the plan, the process involved, and how the commission can help make the process valuable to municipalities. After initial discussion about the new process, there will be time for comments, questions, and a dialogue with the commission and the panelists, which hopefully will be instrumental in crafting the new plan. Again, a few housekeeping items. We are recording it. We'll ask that while we're running this as a kind of in the webinar format, it's a Zoom meeting. So if you could please mute yourselves when you're not speaking. I think we've all been on Zoom meetings when there's always that one person who takes the phone call, and sometimes they say things maybe they don't want to hear. So please be sure you're muted unless you're speaking as well. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat box. Sierra Bradley, the league's research associate, is hosting the webinar, and she's checking the chat box, and she can relay questions to the speakers as well. We also have monitoring this Frank Marshall, the league's associate general counsel, who is our point person on this issue, and various staff members as well. I think Paul Penna is on, Andrew Lefevre, and Amy Spezio, who's always looking for a magazine article. Hint, hint. So with that, Tom, you're actually taking sort of the heavy lift here. But let me just, before I pass the baton to you, I'd like to thank Tom, Donna, Walter, and Jeff for your time today and participating in this session. It is much appreciated. And again, like I said, very timely. And again, a lot has happened since 2001, and we're going to learn a little bit about that. So with that, Tom, I want to pass you the baton, and thank you for your time today, sir.
Absolutely, Mike. Thanks so much for having me, and it's great to be back here. And like you, I was here the first time round. I'm not sure if folks are all aware. I was actually staff to what was then called the Office of State Planning back in 2001 when we adopted the current state plan. And so I feel like my life has come full circle here now, having the opportunity to chair the State Planning Commission and work with Donna and the other commissioners and her terrific staff and all of the agencies. And what I'm really excited about is this opportunity. Thank you, really, Mike, and to the League of Municipalities, because I just know what a critical role you all play in the future of our state, what kind of communities we're going to live in. And in particular, I think of the State Planning Act and the cross-acceptance process that we're going through as an opportunity, an extraordinary opportunity to create a dialogue between the public and private sectors, between different levels of government, all talking about what kind of future we're going to have here in New Jersey and how best to achieve it. I think I am just supposed to talk about why this is important, and I could go on for a very long time on that, but I will be brief, I promise. I think like many people here, actually I've lived in New Jersey almost my entire life. In the early 1970s, when I was 3 years old, we moved from New York to New Jersey, kind of classic move. And I've grown up in this state and in this community, went to school here, raised my kids. My daughters went to some of the same schools I did. And I've watched New Jersey change enormously over the last 50 years. We kind of, when I was growing up, it was a suburbanizing state. There was an extraordinary amount of growth. I had my bike and I felt like 10 years old. I could get anywhere I wanted to, but mostly what I wanted was to get to the shopping malls on Route 1 and and to the shore and other places a little too far away. I like to come back to, famously Ben Franklin referred to New Jersey as a keg tapped at both ends, with Philadelphia and New York playing such an influential role in our state. But I think that I'm proud of the development of the state of New Jersey. The historian Ken Jackson also likes to point out that when you're driving on the New Jersey Turnpike and over one shoulder you've got Newark Airport, and over the other the Port of Newark and Elizabeth, you're probably in the greatest concentration of infrastructure, of heavy infrastructure and trade on the entire planet. And so that's an important part of the state of New Jersey. And so, over the last 50 years, we've gone from being a state that was seeing growth pressure in certain types, to one, from suburban development, and concern about protecting farmland, protecting drinking water supply and other things, to now a state where we've got a lot of growth pressure in our downtowns. Walkable communities have, I think we were correct in predicting a lot of those trends. But we're kind of seeing, especially in this post-COVID landscape, an enormous amount of pressure now in our communities. Climate change, which was something we barely talked about 20 years ago. Now we see the effects of it, and many of our communities just last Friday were severely impacted by it. Rising inequality and really concerns about how we are going to make sure that prosperity is shared by all the residents and communities in our state. And that's an issue I think that has not gone away in the last 20 years and become, in particular, as we face things like rising housing costs and other things, really even greater challenges that we've had before. And so this is an opportune time for us to take stock of where we are, look at the trends, try and understand what the future is likely to bring. I think one of the core principles about growth management and state planning that we believe in is that it's not a question of whether or not to grow, but where and how to grow, because external pressures will always be forcing their hand on us. But we have a lot of decisions to make about where we want that growth to occur, where we think it's best, where we should, what farmland, what watersheds, what ecosystems we want to protect and preserve, and how we can try and make sure that we grow in the best possible ways as the future of our state. I also kind of teach this stuff sometimes to graduate students, and when I talk about growth management, I say there are a lot of similarities around growth management around the country. Actually, John Landis recently had a piece in a publication, and our dear departed friend Marty Bierbaum contributed to it. And when you look at growth management and this kind of work around the country, there are great similarities in what they're trying to achieve. We're trying to create diversity of choices. We're trying to create walkable communities. We're trying to, again, protect those landscapes that produce our food and our water and define our communities. But there are also a lot of things that are fairly unique about the New Jersey experience in the state development and redevelopment plan. I'm not sure if everyone always realizes the state plan policy map. Not every state has created a kind of map like that and tried to put all the data in one place so that people can look at it and understand, what type of a community are we talking about? What kind of infrastructure do we have? What are the plans in place for that type of community? The State Planning Commission itself, some states do this kind of work just out of an executive office. They kind of look at it, they might combine different state agencies to do this, but they don't create a commission that represents both the public and the private sector and creates a forum really for daylighting these issues and having conversations publicly about the issues that are going forward. And I think that's a fairly unique aspect of New Jersey that I'm very proud of. And finally, I'm really proud of the cross-acceptance process. And I know a lot of people say it and then shudder. But cross-acceptance was enshrined in the State Planning Act because there was an understanding that the process is just as important as the product, and that how we do our planning is just as important as what the final plans are, and that it's impossible to create a new strategic plan for the state without going through a process that really invites all communities to be part of it, all of our citizens to participate, for people to understand what's going on and give them a role in this process. And I'm really proud of cross acceptance and what it does. It offers a lot of opportunities to municipalities in particular. It gives them a chance to talk to their neighbors and think about how their plans align, and talk about where they might be thinking about, different outcomes. It really empowers the counties to play. And I'm so glad that Walter Lane is here, since he's been a role model for all of us in this work, and Somerset County has been for a long time. And I think it's about having the counties play a pivotal role in talking to the communities and the communities in the state. And it's really about talking to citizens, and all of us talking to each other and learning about what the plans are for our neighborhood, for our town, for our county, for our region, for our entire state, and understanding how they are connected to each other. So I'm thrilled that, the state development redevelopment plan and our state planning process is a voluntary one, as it should be. But it provides, I think, enormous opportunities for communities to participate and engage in these conversations. And I'm just thrilled that we have an opportunity to undertake this. I think Donna and her team, and I really want to thank the governor's office and their leadership, have put us in a good place to do this at this time now. There are a lot of issues we need to address, and I'm just thrilled to be working with everybody else as part of this. So thanks again, Mike, and to the State League of Municipalities for this opportunity to talk about these issues. And I think I will now turn it over. Donna, are you going to kick off the next part of this, talking about what the specific process will be?
Yes, I believe I am. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Donna Randero. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of State Planning. I guess we're formally known as the Office of Planning Advocacy, but we're trying to informally talk to us about the Office of State Planning, because that really tells us what we actually do. With me today is Walter Lane from Somerset County. He's here because the counties are going to be playing a huge role in this, and we've been talking with the County Planners Association, with the county planning staffs, and so he's going to give you his take on why it's important from the county perspective. And then also we have with us Jeff Bueller, who's the Assistant Director in the Business Action Center. My office is housed within the Business Action Center. While the state plan is largely a land use document, it does require our goals to be treated equally. And while some of those goals are providing affordable housing at a reasonable cost, providing infrastructure at a reasonable cost, looking at transportation and infrastructure from a land use perspective, but it also requires us to provide economic development opportunities and be treating them equally, as well as the environmental concerns, coastal, open space preservation, farmland preservation. So he's gonna bring us home with why it is important from a economic development perspective to do good land use planning. So I'm going to kick us off with what the process is going to be like, and tell you what we're hoping to achieve here. So let's see if I can do this in the beginning. Let's see if that comes up. So as I said, we are in the Business Action Center. The Business Action Center is, there we go. The Business Action Center's mission is to provide exceptional technical assistance, customer service, and be a resource and advocates for not only New Jersey businesses, but municipalities of all sizes and categories. We're basically here to help elected officials, to help the business community being able to become sustainably, both environmentally and economically. We have free, confidential, reliable assistance. We have an Office of Business Advocacy, Export Promotion, Small Business Advocacy, Cannabis Training Academy is within our group, as well as our Office of Planning. That's kind of what we look like, just to put some faces to what we do. And if you have any business questions, or if your business community wants to reach out, they provide services like what do I have to do from a tax perspective? How do I register a business? And sometimes that's difficult to find throughout the state. But these are the ways to contact the Business Action Center. But we're here to talk about the State Development and Redevelopment Plan. So the State Planning Act requires that the State Planning Commission develop a plan that represents a balance of development and conservation objectives. And frankly, the key word here is balance. Rightfully so, DEP is required to have their first priority of environmental protection, and EDA's first priority is to provide business opportunities. DOT's first priority is to ensure our infrastructure is in good working stead. But we at the State Planning Commission need to balance all of these requirements in order to protect our resources, promote development, and consider input from all levels of government. We are also required to identify areas for growth, limited growth, and conservation. And there's a whole lot more, but those are really the keys. From a process perspective, there are 4 concurrent paths and end products in order to get an updated state development and redevelopment plan. We have the plan document itself. We are required to do an infrastructure needs assessment, which is a separate document that assesses our needs from an infrastructure perspective, both today and for future growth scenarios. And I'll go into some of this in a little more detail as we move along. We are required to do an impact assessment. Does the plan make an impact? And we have, as Tom mentioned before, state plan policy map. So those are 4 distinct paths, and I'll go through some of those details in a minute. In order to do that, we need to have constant feedback loops among our 4 our consultants that are working on those 4 different paths, and each of these paths further inform the development of the other. We believe we can do it concurrently. We believe stakeholder engagement is critical. The rules require 27 public hearings, but we think that the way the rules structure it, it's too late, and we have started early public outreach, this being one of them, and I'll go into that in a minute. So the preliminary plan provides a coordinated, comprehensive plan for growth, development, and conservation. It is the basis for the cross-acceptance process that Tom was referring to. And we believe that early stakeholder process that we're going through now will only make that preliminary plan better. It's not required in the rules, but we think it's critical. The cross-acceptance process is a process by which we negotiate with our counties that are the negotiating entities for their municipalities. It's designed to encourage consistency between all levels of government and the plans to hopefully, I mean, obviously we're never going to be in 100% consistency, but to come up with the highest level of consistency that we can. Once that cross-acceptance process is done, we will complete a draft final plan that the State Planning Commission will consider for adoption. So the infrastructure needs assessment, right now we're going to be doing it in 2 phases. Phase 1 is currently underway, where we're going to be focused on the environment, energy, and transportation. We are working with Rutgers, the Voorhees Center, and you might know John Carnegie. He's the project lead for this, and he'll be working with a number of Blaustein folks. We're not starting from scratch here. We're relying on many of the reports and analyses that are already in place. We don't think we think it's wasteful to reinvent the wheel. So there's a lot of good reporting out there and a lot of good analysis out there that John and his folks are working to look at it as a whole of government perspective. So he's looking at it to determine, are there any inconsistencies among our state agency partners' plans? Where are there holes? What are we missing? And he's looking at it from a whole of government perspective. Phase 2, we're going to be starting shortly, and it will cover all of these pieces that are here: affordable housing, farmland retention, public recreation, public libraries, human services. A lot of different factors are going to be part of that. so phase one is really well underway now, and phase two is going to start in the next couple of months, and then we're going to consolidate them into one report. We have to have this completed before the final draft plan. The impact assessment is required by the Act to prepare an assessment of the impacts of the state plan. So we haven't really started this process yet, but some initial data that we looked at says that yes, it is impactful. Most of the development we've seen across the state have occurred in areas that we've identified for development and for growth. And most of the conservation efforts have been in areas where we have identified for conservation. This also needs to be done for the final plan. So we haven't started this process yet, but as part of the data that we're gathering, it's going to help develop this plan. So the state plan policy map, the Act does not require a map, but the rules do. And we think it's a valuable part of the plan. The map is a geographic application of the goals, and so that you can see visually where the areas that we encourage for growth are, where the protection areas should be. And I'll tell you frankly, during the last cross acceptance process, this has the most controversy, frankly. But we have a lot of technology today that we did not have when we went through this the last time. So, and I'll talk a little bit about what some of those advances are going to help us through this process. So we're hoping to be able to identify a number of layers with our mapping consultant, which is Rowan University. They have an NJ map that they're using as the baseline, and we're going to be able to layer things on. First, we're going to look at where things are today, what's on the ground, what's really there. And then part of the negotiations is what should happen going forward. So we have had challenges with this. So hopefully we'll be able to get some information out there early so that the counties and their respective municipalities can start looking at it ahead of time before cross acceptance is in full swing. Just a word on the State Planning Commission. It's a statutorily mandated commission. We have 17 seats on the commission. It is made up of public members, state agency reps, and county and municipal reps. We have two areas that are sort of subcommittees of the State Planning Commission. We have the Plan Development Committee that's made up of some or all of our public and county and municipal members. This is the committee that will see things before the commission does, comment on documents, make recommendations, provide input, and then vote to send it to the full commission. The PDC does not have any binding authority, but they do have authority to send data and documents to the full commission, who does have binding authority. The ex officio members will provide their input through the interagency work group and departmental specific meetings, and that's through the infrastructure needs assessment, through the plan document. And part of that interagency work group includes our state agency partners that are not, obviously the ones that are on the commission are on this work group, but also there are a number of different state agencies that, while they're not on the commission, their input is very important. So we want to include them as well. I believe we have something like 17 different state agencies on there. It's really important to get our state agency partners, get their support, because if we don't have their support, it's going to be difficult for them to implement the plan once it's adopted. So some process changes and some things that we've done a little bit differently. We have updated our rules. Our rules were not updated since, probably 15 or 20 years. We're on our last few days of public comment period. They will be posted for 30 days in the register after the public comment period ends on October 6th, and then they will be adopted on November 7th. So hopefully some of these are no-brainers, and some of these are things that we just think make logical sense. So it allows for some virtual meetings, and it allows for municipal and county submissions to be received by our office electronically. Our rules are so old, they require documents to be sent to our office, hard copy, 10 of them. And that's really silly now. Obviously, those are the two no-brainers that we thought would be important. The preliminary plan, we can send that out electronically. Again, previously in the last update, we had to do it hard copy and send it out via snail mail. But I think one of the most important process improvements that we have is that the municipal master plans and other documentation used to be required. The rules require that municipal master plans need to be submitted to our office. I don't have time to review 563 municipalities' master plans. I don't think the counties have time to review the master plans, and we really don't have authority to do anything about them. So it's almost like, what's the point? In addition, most of those master plans are online now. So if there's any information we need, we can probably get that information. We are considering doing something like a certification from each municipality that says, here's where we comply, here's where we agree, here's where we disagree. But that's going to be a lot less cumbersome than supplying all of your planning documents. So we think that's going to be a huge lift. We also have allowed for provision of electronic format for written comments. And we procured the services of a company called Public Input. This public input system is, the more I see about it, the more I think it's phenomenal. It is www.publicinput.com/NJ State Plan. Right now, we have 3 tabs. One allows for surveys for the public to submit comments or to respond to a survey, either as a resident or as a business or an organization. You can put in there that whether you're an advocacy group, a county, municipality, a county or a municipality, and we ask some questions. It talks about the verbiage in the language of the goals today, and it asks the responder what type of information, what factor here is most important for you. It will also allow a free form. It will allow for a free-form set of comments, and it will also we have 2 separate emails, and I'll go into that in a minute onto how folks can provide public input. The other thing that it does allow is for those folks that do not want to deal with the internet, we have a toll-free number that folks can leave a voicemail on. So for the general public, they can just leave a 45-second comment period about what they would like and what they would not like. So there are a number of things we're doing from an electronic perspective. We obviously, the mapping technology now is so much better than it was. Rather than passing paper maps back and forth, we'll be able to have an interactive mapping tool that the counties can work with their municipalities with, as well as the general public if they want to see it and play with the different layers. We'll have that as well. So our outreach plan. What's required by the rules is once the preliminary plan is published, we're required to have 21 public hearings. And those 21 public hearings have to happen within 45 days. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. But hey, we're up for the challenge. Once those public hearings are done and we go through cross-acceptance and the negotiations process, during that process, the counties also have to have a public input process. Once that happens and we develop a final plan based on the results of those negotiations, we're required to have 6 more public hearings before the final plan is presented to the commission. But we don't think that is enough, and we think it's too late in the process. So we've done a number of things, and I frankly need to update this slide. It started with a listening session at the New Jersey Planning and Redevelopment Forum that was held in June. We invited stakeholders at that session to provide input through the email address. We have several commissioners that were in attendance and they were able to listen. And audience members were also able to provide written comments. In addition, we have developed 8 stakeholder sessions. The first one is on Friday, and they will go through, I believe it's October 24th, on different topics. They will be the topics that are addressed as part of the 8 goals. And But in the new plan, we believe we're going to keep those 8 goals as is. How we're going to interpret those goals is what will change. In addition, we're going to add 2 more goals, one for equity and one for climate change. Because while the original plan that we're currently working under talked about it, it didn't address it in the way that we need to address them today. So each of those 8 topics are going to also address how climate change and how equity issues can inform those specific goals. You can register, and please get this word out. We're trying to get this word out as best we can on that public input site. Again, it's www.publicinput.com/NJ State Plan. One of the tabs lists the meetings of those, the dates of those webinars. And all you have to do is click on the link that is the title of the session, and then you can go in and directly register for that. Those will be webinars. We have a capacity for 500 people on those webinars, so please get it out to everybody to listen. Most folks, we will have panelists. Most folks will be in listen-only mode, but we will be asking polling questions throughout that, throughout each webinar, and then also you can provide comments later on. Those sessions are going to be recorded and also placed on the public input website. So if you don't have a chance to listen on that day, you can always go back and listen as well. Last week, we were at the Governor's Conference on Housing and Economic Development, again, promoting input, promoting the sessions, promoting the update of the plan. We have this meeting here. We have we have a session at the League Conference with the NJPO folks so that we can provide information to Planning and Zoning Board officials. We also are working very much, I don't know if I have that in the future. Well, let's see. We also are working very closely with the County Planners Association. 18 of the 21 counties had requested informational meetings that we had. So we had 18 separate meetings with each county, and every county was different. They brought in different levels. They brought in different folks. And the offer that I gave to them, and I'm giving to everybody here, is we will come out and talk to anybody that wants to hear us talk. There was one county, for example, that has monthly mayor's meetings. We'll come out and talk to them. There's another county that has monthly business administrator meetings. If they want, we can come out to them. If you want to set up a smaller group of mayor meetings, we can do that. We will come out and talk. We can talk there. I've met with different groups. I've met with the Watershed Institute. I've met with the Builders Association. Wherever you'd like us to be, we will be. From now until the end of the year, this is all outreach that's not required by the rules, but we think is really, really important to do, because the better and more informed we are writing the preliminary plan, the better the preliminary plan will be. So the dedicated email address for public input is stateplan.comments@sos.nj.gov. There's also an additional one that's stateplan.comments@publicinput.com. And I will update this slide before I send it to Mike to put it on. Things are happening very, very quickly and moving very fast. The phone number is 855-925-2801. with a passcode of 2813. People can leave voicemails with comments on there, or you can leave comments on the public input site itself. We are facilitating state agency comments through the interagency work group. And we talked a little bit about the county planners' involvement, because again, if we talk to them about the more global issues that concern the counties, we think the counties play a huge role in this, because they're a link between the state and the municipalities. If there are global issues, we are discussing it with them. Again, the more input we can get now, the better the preliminary plan will be. And we will talk to anyone, any group that you'd like us to come out and talk to. We're there to talk. So there's, I call it, so many moving parts and so little time. The target completion date is December of 2024, and please don't laugh at me, because that's about a year and a half to do this whole process. The last process took 3 years to do. It's an aspirational goal. It's not carved in stone. So if we feel we have to move it a little bit, we can do so. But I do think it's doable. Aside from the changes we made to the rules, the technology that we have today that we didn't have previously, the early input that we're trying to go through now, I think makes this possible. We are trying to walk and chew gum at the same time. Those 4 paths that we talked about, the plan update, the infrastructure needs assessment, the impact assessment, and the mapping, are going to occur concurrently with constant feedback loops. This morning, we just had kind of an all consultant meeting, and I'm meeting with each consultant every other week. Coordination and communication is critical. So through the end of 2023, this is what we're trying to accomplish. So stakeholder sessions are scheduled, advertised, and will be convened by the end of this week, or at least begin to be convened. The interagency work group meetings are scheduled. We've held 18 county informational meetings. We are continuing conversations with county planners. We've begun research on the population trends. New Jersey Future is helping us with that. We want to complete the preliminary plan, but we haven't done a lot of work on that yet because we want to get the community input. The infrastructure needs assessment, as I mentioned, phase 1 is very much underway, and phase 2, we're about to kick off phase 2. I just received the proposal from Rutgers on phase 2. We're talking about mapping protocols, and we've procured the public comment software. So from now until the end of the year, it's basically we're gearing it up, we're getting our ducks in a row, we'll talk to anybody that wants to hear from us, and that's going to set us up for the formal process that begins at the beginning of next year. So in the first half of 2024, we want to publish the preliminary plan and preliminary mapping. And by the way, when we publish that preliminary plan, the counties are going to receive a cross-acceptance manual. And that's going to tell them, you know, what resolutions we need, when we need them, by how. It's possible that the counties can opt out of the negotiating entity as the negotiating entity. I strongly discourage that. If that happens, then we in the office can assign what the rules call an appropriate entity to do that function. But I really believe the counties need to play a role and need to hear, and we need to hear from them. So I would strongly discourage that. But the cross-acceptance manual does talk about that and how that process would have to work. That does not have to be published until the preliminary plan is published, but I'm hoping to bring it to the commission for approval on November 1, and there's no reason to not to send it out to the counties early on so they can begin getting their prep work done. So also in the first half, we're going to do the cross-acceptance process, which involves the 21 public hearings, the negotiations, and we also need to get some information from the state agencies, their responses as well. We look like we'll be completing phase 1 of the INA, and this is beginning phase 2 INA in the first half of next year, but I believe we can start it before the end of this year. And then we have to begin the impact assessment. In the second half, and this is going to be more like fall, not so much the summer, but in the second half, we want to complete the INA and consolidate it into one report, incorporate results of cross-acceptance into the final draft. We have to have 6 more public hearings and produce the final draft, and then we have to adopt it. So on paper, it looks doable. The tricky part's going to be the cross-acceptance and the negotiations, and hopefully with what we're doing up front, we'll be able to make that a little bit easier. And before I end, there's only one thing I need to talk about, and that's implementation. A plan is only as good as its implementation. If we can do all the wonderful planning in the world, if it sits on the shelf, it's not going to help us. And that goes for our state agency partners, as well as the counties and the municipalities. It's important to get the state agencies involved early because they need to support this. We want to have a further discussion around incentives and how our state agencies can provide incentives for municipalities and counties that comply with good land use planning. And we have many opportunities to modernize New Jersey's land use discussion, and to ensure that that we give the tools to municipalities to make New Jersey a great place to not only live, work, and play, but live, work, play, and age. in New Jersey. So we think that's really important. So we're keeping our eye on the implementation ball, because without the implementation, the plan is not going to be as successful as it can be. So I believe that's all I have. Maybe we'll wait to the end to take questions. I think I'm going to hand it over. I'm going to stop sharing. And I guess, Walter, you're up.
All right, so let me see if I can share my screen. And let me start. So can everyone see the full screen? Great. So thank you, Donna. So I'm Walt Lane. I have the privilege and honor of serving as the director of the Somerset County Office of Planning, Policy, and Economic Development. I've been here since 1997. I started as an intern, and I'm happy to be part of this panel because the first project I worked on as an intern was actually working on the county's cross-acceptance work as part of the state planning process. So here is our mission. I'm not going to read it to you, but our efforts focus not only on providing a regional perspective on issues facing our county, but also to support our local planning partners. Our office has tremendous amount of support from our Board of County Commissioners and the County Administrator, Colleen Marr. And without their support and leadership of the support of the county planning boards and their leadership, our team wouldn't be able to do what we do on a daily basis. So to kind of set the stage for my presentation, I'm really going to highlight how the state plan can be implemented at the local level, not only to achieve the state planning goals, but local planning priorities as well. So I chose this quote because I feel the update of the State Development Redevelopment Plan is a great opportunity for our entire state of New Jersey to define or redefine the future of our state and put in place the planning goals and strategies and policies to ensure all of our residents of New Jersey have a prosperous and sustainable future. We now have the opportunity to do good local and regional planning work that will ensure the good fortune of our great state. An updated state plan will ensure all of our planning efforts, meaning the state's planning efforts, the county's planning efforts, and our municipal planning efforts are all aligned. By aligning that, we'll be able to achieve the goals that we all are seeking for our communities. This will allow growth to occur in the right places while protecting our critical natural resources. So just a little bit about our office. As you can see, we support a wide range of efforts here at the county and really kind of mirroring with Donna's whole government approach to addressing issues. That's really what we're doing here. My office supports such a wide range of issues and initiatives and boards and commissions. So I have everything from the county's film commission to the economic development office, open space advisory, and a whole host of others. I joke we are the Swiss Army knife of the Board of County Commissioners, because really part of our charge is to make sure all county government is moving in the same direction and really aligning those and making sure, and you'll hear this several times, our plans don't sit on a shelf behind me, they're actually implemented. So this is what our office is charged with doing day in and day out. And like I said, we really couldn't do this without the support of the county commissioners and the administrator. So our planning work starts actually when the state plan was adopted, or a state planning act was implemented in 1986. We had already been working to address some of the goals and the policies that actually made it into the state plan in our local planning efforts. So many of the state plan's goals that were when the first state plan was adopted in 1992 were really reflected in our 1987 county land use management map, where we really tried to focus growth and preservation efforts in different areas, really working on infrastructure and using this to guide future infrastructure investments. And there's the center concept that's in the State Development Redevelopment Plan. We had already designated a regional center in our county prior to that. And then, we look at some of the same corridor management, growth management opportunities, the settlements and the rural preservation and open space preservation you can see on our map. So this was done, and you can see it's kind of a blob map, but this was set the stage for a lot of the planning work. And our policies aligned, and where they didn't, we worked to align them with the State Development Redevelopment Plan. So in 2014, we adopted the county's master plan county investment framework map, our county investment framework. And really this was building off of work that was done and some of the concepts that were in the state strategic plan that was never adopted. So there was a lot of concepts and policies and ranking criteria that were in that state plan that was never adopted. So we kind of pretended that it was and sort of applied them at the local level. So it really builds off what's in the state development redevelopment plan. So we designate priority growth investment areas, and those are a lot of those areas were centers or designated centers or identified centers in the state plan. There are also areas where there's a concentration of infrastructure and also local plans and policies to support growth in those areas. And then we have our priority preservation investment area. That's the green areas on the map. So the dark green are lands already permanently preserved through county action, state action, local action, federal action, and so on and so forth. So those are permanently preserved farms, permanently preserved open space, and historic resources. And the lighter green is areas targeted for preservation. So more than half the counties in our preservation area. And this really lines up with the state planning map very closely with the different planning areas. And also with our sewer service area boundaries. And then we have our local priority areas. Those are other places that were identified as centers or identified as centers in the state plan where the towns wanted investment to occur, but nothing that would dramatically change the sense of place in those communities. So they wanted to maintain, still have vibrant communities, but not necessarily attracting a lot of more growth. And then we have our alternative growth area. That's the tannish color on the map. That's areas that have public water and sewer, kind of the suburban planning areas in the state plan where growth is envisioned to occur, but nothing that would dramatically change those places. And then our limited growth investment areas are kind of the planning areas 3 in the state plan, and that's where there's limited public infrastructure and residential, mid to low density residential development. So we did this all through a series of GIS mapping exercises and a lot of data and really working one-on-one with our municipalities. So we defined the criteria for these different investment areas and then worked with the towns on a one-on-one basis. And if they didn't really support, if we identified it as a priority growth investment area and they were not comfortable with that, then we showed it as an alternative growth area. So there's a lot of consensus, a lot of collaboration to get into this map. So we kind of had our own really mini cross-acceptance process at the county level. But really the goal of this investment framework was to support ongoing local and regional smart growth planning efforts, economic revitalization, sustainability planning, open space preservation, and resiliency. And really the goal was to achieve a tactical alignment of our land use plans, our infrastructure and preservation plans, ensure resources, programs, and policies supported investment decisions. So really this map was really intended to align all those at a tactical level. So aligning state, local, county, regional plans to make sure we really define where growth should occur in the county. Those are our development areas, and then where preservation should occur in the county. And really that's the idea was conveying a clear message regarding those local priorities to not only the public sector, but to the private sector as well. Really, some of the advantage of this is it really fostered collaboration at all levels of government. It's a really great example of how a county-led planning effort, a collaborative approach really to work to implement the state development and redevelopment plan at the county and local levels. Build off a long history of good regional planning here in Somerset County. I'm lucky that I inherited a really good office and we're really good working relationships with our towns have only grown over the years. And really it was grounded in data. We sourced the whole amount of different GIS data, so environmental infrastructure, economic and social demographic conditions to really outline where development and preservation should occur in the county. So to ensure that this map didn't sit in a plan not being used, we launched our supporting priority investment in Somerset County work. So I have to thank the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority. They funded all this planning work that we're going to be talking about. So we got a grant from the U.S. Economic Development Administration to update and create a county comprehensive economic development strategy, and then the NJTPA funded the supporting priority investment work. So the supporting priority investment through access and mobility improvements, that's what happens when you let a planner name a planning study. So we try to improve upon that. So really what we're talking about is supporting priority investment. So that work was we roughly used $1 million of grant funding from the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority to provide technical assistance to our municipalities. So through these studies, what we did is we identified sites within our priority growth investment areas or local priority areas, and then developed different planning scenarios for each of the communities. So the first one was always based on what local zoning would allow, really helping the towns understand what their zoning really meant and what it called for. And then there's 2 smart growth alternatives for the development of that site. We really focused on mixed use or smart growth type of strategies that were grounded in economic reality. So we did market assessments, so we weren't necessarily recommending every place to build Amazon HQ2. We just know that couldn't happen every place. So we really wanted to make sure that the recommendations we're giving were really pragmatic and actually actionable and could be implemented, and not, as sometimes planners get accused of being pie in the sky. So we really worked on grounding them in reality. And so at the access and mobility study, one of the things that came out of this was the redevelopment of the old Santa Fe campus in Bridgewater Township, where Santa Fe moved out, and we came up with a mixed use concept that the town eventually took, incorporated into a master plan amendment and a redevelopment plan, really based on the county's recommendations. And then we have a whole history of other those types of things. So in the other studies, we expanded upon that. So there's just a couple of, slides showing some of the improvements that we did. We not only focused on land use recommendations, but also transportation improvements, looking at multimodal type of improvements, in more smaller scale. We weren't saying build a brand new rail line for passenger service or build this, brand new highway. We looked at really strategic, targeted transportation improvements that would support the redevelopment or the reuse or revitalization of those sites that we selected within those priority growth or local priority areas. So, one of the concepts that what we were really proud of is that we worked with Manville Borough in the supporting priority investment work and identified how solidified the concept of the Lost Valley Nature Park. So the Lost Valley, whenever there's major flooding, when Manville's on the news, that's really the site of that. So the Lost Valley has been having a series of buyouts and relocations of residential uses out of the floodplain. And really right now, the land that's remaining, that's where the homes used to be, are just kind of mowed by the borough. So the idea was, how can we take that and turn it into an asset for the borough? So the idea was kind of restoring the floodplain, removing the utilities, removing any of the infrastructure that was there, and create opportunities for floodplain storage, for passive recreation, pollinator gardens, and just more passive recreation opportunities, and linking that to some broader connections to the Raritan River Greenway and some other regional greenways now the county's planning and implementing as we speak. So the borough took that plan and applied, and they received close to $1 million in transportation alternative grant program funding to do the first phase. The county actually gave them money from, our recreation grant program that helps cover some of the soft cost of that. So we've tried to identify projects and initiatives that actually could be implemented. So that's just one example. And many of our towns were able to take advantage of our work and looking at making master plan and zoning changes. So here's an example that we work in Franklin Township, where we identified a series of corridor improvements and breaking up a very suburban super block area with some additional pedestrian and vehicular connections, how to retake a suburban corridor and make it more of a mixed use corridor, but also being able to serve it, making it a walkable and an area easily served by transit. So a lot of these recommendations were incorporated into local master plan and zoning ordinances or further studies to refine that. So an example of the work we did in the phase 3, we looked at the AT&T campus in Bedminster Township. So that's one of our priority growth investment areas. It was the counties and the municipalities' desire to maintain, make it so AT&T want to stay in Somerset County and stay in Bedminster Township. But if they left, how can that site be repurposed, reused? So we had some recommendations in our supporting priority investment work. And then we followed on, we were able to receive a grant from the New Jersey Highlands Council that really take the phase 3 recommendations and turn them into actual master plan amendment and new zoning ordinance for the site. So through the planning process of refining the work that we did on our initial study, we worked with the township and developed a master plan amendment that calls for creating a life science or high technology hub, innovation hub on the site. As well, so it's a mixture of uses. There's no residential, but really making it a campus that's for multiple tenants and allowing for companies to start out and also allow for some advanced manufacturing. We've worked with our economic development office and the planning office and made recommendations to support aseptic manufacturing, which is really the future of cell and gene therapy, having clean room technology and clean room facilities. So that could occur on the site because originally the municipality didn't allow any manufacturing type of uses on the site. So We grounded the recommendations with real world economic development strategies and policies and trends, and made sure that was reflected. So our town was in the best position to be competitive for that type of investment. And right now we continue to work with the state and the county and the municipality continue to work together to advance the implementation of that study. So the supporting private investment work did a lot. So it really just builds off a lot of the same policies that you'll find in the state plan and state development and redevelopment plan. So we outlined a consensus vision for the future. We really advanced the implementation of the state plan at the county and local level. We gave resources, information to our local decision makers to help them make their decisions on the future of their communities. We strengthened the linkages between our planning work, as well as not only county master plan work, but also local master plan work. Like as I said, almost all of our towns adopted updated master plan amendments or zoning ordinances based on the work that the county did. They used us to jumpstart that process. And one of the benefits of the county doing the work is it gave the municipalities a little bit of cover to kind of do the what if scenarios and look at what they did. And I'm very proud to say a lot of our towns, almost all of our towns that we worked with, adopted some sort of master plan amendment or zoning change based on the recommendations the county did. We've used the supporting private investment work to support updates of our county master plan, which I'll talk about a little bit. And then you've been able to use the work to leverage other grant opportunities. So, part of the goal was that a lot of this work was funded by the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority, and they sit on a lot of different grant review committees. So our goal has been, and we've been very successful, is that they funded the planning study. So how can they not fund the implementation of the recommendations from the planning studies they funded? And it's worked out very well. Numerous of our towns have gotten grants from the NJTPA for transportation projects, but also for refining the initial planning work the county did. And this work has been recognized by New Jersey Future, New Jersey planning officials, Plan Smart, and APA-NJ for the work we've done. So it's, I think, a really good example of how a state plan can be applied and implemented at the local level. And it's really also fun. It's also helped us advance other aspects of the state plan through some of these other studies. So our walk, bike, hike study was also looking at, that was funded by the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority, looked at how we could create a seamless system of bikeways, greenways, and sidewalk connections throughout the county, connecting county infrastructure resources to local, and for all the things that we're talking about here, is supporting a healthy lifestyle, improving mobility, making sure our guidance documents are consistent with the current standards, and make sure that we can wrap this in the recommendations from the walk, bike, hike study into our county preservation plan, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But really, as you can see, we use this not only to advance the state plan, but updating recommendations that are in our county circulation element, or supporting private investment work. We really talk about tourism and creative placemaking. So we're talking about economic development opportunities by using these mobility recommendations to improve access to jobs, but also tourism opportunities, and advancing the work of Healthier Somerset, which is led by Robert Wood Johnson Somerset, which does our county health improvement plan. So we're trying to align all these different planning efforts with the county work as well as the state plan. So we're all moving in the same direction. So it came up with a series of recommendations. We almost doubled the amount of trails and bikeways and sidewalks that were proposed. And then we, tying back to the tourism and this comprehensive approach, we have Somerset County, we joke, is the crossroads of the American Revolution. So I think Washington probably might have spent more time in Somerset County than other places in New Jersey while he was here. So there's different encampments that were held during the Revolutionary War. So there's 5 generals' houses that during the Middlebrook encampments, major generals from the United States Continental Army stayed in. So Washington stayed here, Hamilton, Greene, von Steuben, and so on, all stayed at these different houses. So we looked at, well, we want to promote our historic resources because all but one of those, the Wallace houses is owned by the state. All the others are owned by municipalities or a nonprofit. So we've invested our historic preservation grant program into restoration efforts at that. So we really want to use the funding that we put into restoring those things. We view those as investments, just the way we view the funding we've spent on preserving farms and preserving open space, or investments, and how we can use those to generate other economic activity. So tourism is one of those themes that we're looking to do. So The walk, bike, hike study looked at how we can link that all together through a series of trails and greenway connections. So someone could come in Somerset County with the upcoming 250th anniversary of our independence coming up in 2026. How can we build upon that? And since we're New Jersey, as Tom said, we're the keg tapped at two ends with New York and Philadelphia, both major roles in the formation of this country. How can we have people stay here as they're traveling to and from those more well-known destinations? So that's an example of how we've done that, and that ties in a lot with the state's plan of preserving our natural resources and preserving our historic resources. So we adopted in May of 22 the county preservation plan. So we're very proud of this work. This is the first of its kind in the state and potentially the country, where we updated all three of our, updated our open space and recreation master plan, updated our county farmland preservation plan, and the first time created a historic preservation element of the county master plan. So all three documents tie into the preservation plan document itself, which ties them all together. So the idea is that we coordinated all these efforts and developed a plan simultaneously, so they all reinforce each other, in the common themes of tourism and economic development preservation tie them all together. So these were the kind of the goals that which are very similar to what are in the state development redevelopment plan, making sure we're a desirable place to live, valuing our open space, improving quality of life, making sure the county remains sustainable and resilient. We have a lot of flooding issues here, and we've been working on our hazard mitigation plan, but really making sure we can use our preservation efforts to support and enhance our resiliency and sustainability going forward. Really partnering with our towns through a local coordination, but also partnering with our state agency partners for preservation through Green Acres or the SADC, and really looking at how we can increase our partnership opportunities, how we could use and leverage county funding and other funding sources to achieve the goals of the plan. So we talk about a lot, creating a cultural trail through the county, kind of building off the concept of the Indianapolis Cultural Trail, where they used a series of greenways and bikeways that link various neighborhoods in Indianapolis together. And by creating that network, attracted over $1 billion of investment in and around the cultural trail. So we took that concept and applied it to the county level. So we have a high level idea of how we link together our historic resources, our farming, preserved farms, as well as our historic resources, and linking this all together for tourism. But also this is part of the county's broader economic development goals of looking at how we can use these amenities that we have to attract talent. Because really, if we have talent here, the companies will follow the talent here and invest here. And we want to maintain the high quality workforce that we have. New Jersey overall has one of the most talented and educated workforces in the country, and now with remote work opportunities, how do we maintain and make sure the talent remains here, so that the investment in businesses follow making those investments in Somerset County and New Jersey. So we look at how we can address climate change. Our county commissioners at the end of 2001 adopted a climate change policy statement that outlined that they believe climate change is real and want the county to be a leader in how to mitigate the impacts of climate change, really to be a model for what our towns can do, and show that how how do you address these concerns going forward. So that's wrapped into here. So we talked about a lot of tourism opportunities similar to what the state plan does. Eco, agritourism, heritage tourism, and art tourism. How do we use those, as I said before, the investments we made to leverage other economic activity? So the open space preservation plan these are the components of that, which I won't necessarily go through, but really, these are some of the goals of the open space master plan, which mirror a lot of the concepts that are in the state plan. So we really want to make sure our plan nest with the state plans and nest with the local plans, really for that tactical alignment, but also just making sure it opens up funding opportunities. And to Donna's point earlier about realigning the resources that are available for towns that are doing good planning and counties that are doing good planning, making sure that the county and our towns are first in line for those funding opportunities, because our plans are consistent with the state's plans. And these are some of the additional goals that were part of the open space preservation plan. We have our farmland plan. These are the components, and we really talk about tying back to our SEDS that we adopted in 2014, had the concept of maintaining ag as a viable industry. So for investing and preserving all these resources, I never want to be in the position that our county commissioners have to defend that why aren't they being farmed anymore, because we didn't support the industry to make sure they can survive. And they do produce a lot of jobs, and also it's also a food security issue. The more food we can grow in Somerset County, with climate change impacts, we're never going to be able to support the entire county with the farming that we do, but the less that we have to import, then there's less greenhouse gas emissions and so on and so forth. So we're not only advancing, the food security goal, but also reducing greenhouse gas emissions by having local transport. So these are all kind of themes that are in the state plan in some shape or form. And really, we talk about, balancing the economic development needs as well as the preservation needs. And then we're looking at how we can support our farming community. So there's a lot more efforts about education and outreach, and how we can do supporting economic development opportunities, supporting farm to table type of initiatives and those types of things, improving the local economy, which improving the economy is one of the concepts in the state redevelopment plan. So I believe we're the first county to have a historic preservation plan component of the county master plan. So really, these are some of the things, and really the idea where our goal is really to promote our unique historic resources, and just and help support, acknowledging the importance of our history, and really position ourselves to be at the forefront of the 250th celebration, ensuring we can bring additional resources and tell the story of how Somerset County helped in the formation of the country. So, we don't let our plan sit on the shelf. So since we've adopted the county preservation plan in May, we've received numerous awards for that. We have numerous preservation projects in the pipeline. We have right now over 35 farms in the preservation pipeline. We could add close to 2,500 additional acres of our preserved open space. We've done a farm to frame event where we worked, our Culture and Heritage Commission partnered with the County Ag Development Board. Both were celebrating their 40th anniversary this year. So what we did is we did a call to artists and paired them with local preserved farms, and they through different forms of art at so we had stained glass, we had photography, we had watercolors. It kind of created scenes of the farm over the course of a year. And then we had a gallery unveiling in the county administration building where we have our C&H gallery, and we had over 100 people there, and it really kind of showcased how what the farming industry and the farming community does to Somerset County, telling and really identifying part of our history. So we actually, on our county seal, there's a plowshare in the county seal. So we have a long agricultural tradition, and we were kind of celebrating that. And then what we did is, from COVID, business travel was way down. So our hotels were severely, because a lot of our hotel and tourism, over $1 billion prior to COVID, most of that was business travel. That was down significantly, almost, I think the highest or second highest loss of tourism spending in the state, and the slowest to recover. So what we did is the work and the investments we made in preserving this open space and historic and farming resources, created the Sip and See tour with our Somerset County Business Partnership, where we used art funding to create basically a craft beverage trail through the county. So we have 4 breweries and a distillery. And so what we did is highlighted those different craft beverage locations, and then showed how with a QR code and a passport. So if you went to all 5, you got a t-shirt or other prizes for completing the trail. But the map of the trail showed different preserved farms or downtowns or other unique sites in the county for people to visit. And the idea was to have people stay and spend more money in the local economy. So tying back to the preservation plan is one way we were, working to advance the recommendations of the plan. And then, the current work is, a lot of this current work that we're undertaking underway is really still very tied consistent to the goals and strategies of the state plan. We're updating our county investment framework. It's almost 10 years old. There's a few changes that have occurred. So, and since this is convinced, we're doing some additional mapping right now. We're going to, in the coming months, reaching out to our towns, getting their input as we refine that. We're currently updating the county circulation plan right now. We've launched a series of regional flooding and stormwater roundtables. We're working with our towns, and we were able to partner with Donna and her team and other state resources to look at how we can make our riverine communities more resilient and help them on the path to doing some planning to make them more sustainable and resilient. We're looking at a potential update of the county comprehensive economic development plan. We're looking at updating our county housing element, knowing that in 2025, the next round of affordable housing numbers are going to be coming out. And we did our plan in 2017 really to help guide our municipalities in giving them strategies and a toolbox how they could address their affordable housing needs that would be consistent with not only the state plan, but the county investment framework. We're later this year, early next year, adopting a new long-range plan for the Cultural and Heritage Commission that ties back to creative placemaking opportunities, revitalizing our communities, and using art and historic resources to help revitalize communities, very consistent with the state plan. I talked about our work for the 250th celebration of the United States, and we just completed a strategic needs assessment of all our county-owned historic sites so how we can help restore them going forward. So overall, you know, using the state plan and the county's work, we were able to provide leadership to our communities. County investment framework is showing how the state plan policies and goals and objectives can be applied at a county level and at a local level, and how really all these plans can be integrated through a collaborative planning process, and really how we can use the state plan and planning assistance from the county to help our towns achieve their goals. And we worked with the business partnership, which is our countywide Chamber of Commerce and other nonprofit community groups to help bring additional resources to achieve, you know, our planning partners' goals. We do a quarterly planning partners forum where we invite all our local elected officials and planning board members, as well as state agency partners and other planning partners we have, just to share ideas. So we've had presentations from Donna and her team on the warehouse guidance document and things like that. Jeff just presented on the resources the Business Action Center can provide. We've had AARP talk about age-friendly planning and so on and so forth. So we bring different resources in and really provide that, you know, as a learning opportunity for our towns, but also an opportunity for them to partner with other agencies to help them achieve their local goals. I kind of joke that if my office can't help, if we provide a lot of value for just being a matchmaker. So if we can't help you directly, we know who to put you in touch with. So kind of trying to show how we provide value to our commissioners as well as our residents, and then really use this to leverage grant opportunities. Having consistency with the state plan has given our towns and the county a leg up on receiving grant resources. You know, for example, the NJTPA, North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority, their project prioritization criteria for how they rank projects look at if they're in planning areas 1 or 2 or designated centers or designated growth areas in the county master plan, i.e. our county investment framework. So that is one of the things that leads into helping projects move along quicker when they can show that they align with not only the regional transportation plan, but other plans such as the state plan and county plans. So that's all I really had. So thank you for the opportunity. I hope you can see that, you know, by working to implement the state plan and working with counties, you can get things done. And it's just not planning for plan's sake, but actually having things implemented. And I think counties, as a past president of the County Planners Association, I think echo what Donna said. I think there's a lot of value county planning boards and county planning staffs can provide, and they're a resource to our municipalities. So thank you.
Thank you, Walter. So you've heard what we're trying to do at the state level. You heard now what the county perspective is and how working with the state plan can be really, really helpful. Walter's done an incredible job in Somerset County, and you can see the results. And now we're going to hand it over to Jeff to talk about how good land use planning can help the prosperity of a local municipality and the small business districts that are about 60% of the employment in New Jersey. So Jeff, take it away.
Well, Donna, thanks for raising the bar so high. I'll do my best to meet those goals. I'm Jeff Bueller. Some of you may, the Assistant Director of the New Jersey Business Action Center. I get to work with Donna again in this new role, which is fun. And also formerly ran the Main Street New Jersey program for about 20 years. And I also recreated and ran the Neighborhood Preservation Program out of the Department of Community Affairs for several years as well, prior to coming over to BAC. So some of you may know me through those programs as well. So I get to be the last person talking today, which is, I always love being last because like I'm your gateway to freedom. So, hopefully that works out. And I've got a pretty short, tight little slide deck here that I'm going to share with you now. And in fact, I actually just expanded it during this talk, but not very much and not with many words. So anyway, so here we are, we're talking about the state plan, and I view it as a plan for prosperity on the state level, on the county level, and on the local level. Okay, and theoretically, this should advance the slide. There we go. So from my perspective, everything I've always done in my career, and up to and including the work now at the New Jersey Business Action Center, is about creating and fostering visible and tangible change in our communities on the grassroots level, on an individual business level, on a business district or downtown level, on a community level, regardless of whether you're urban, rural, suburban, North Jersey, South Jersey, it doesn't matter. Visible and tangible
You forgot
change.
Central Jersey.
Oh, sorry. I know that's official policy, Central Jersey as well. So visible and tangible change is really what connects people to progress and ultimately to prosperity. And Walter just gave a bevy of uses of how the county uses its uses its time, talent, and treasure to leverage more time, talent, and treasure on the local level with local collaboration, and then upwards collaboration with state and other entities like the NJTPA and so forth, to really make visible and tangible change happen. So that's just a super example. Donna gave you a great summary of how the state plan revision process is working, particularly versus how it did work before or didn't work, I guess, particularly well in some cases, and how we've really streamlined it and made it municipality friendly. It is, and also engagement forward. I mean, there's so much engagement in this process that I just want to continue to pile on and encourage you to take advantage of that and share that with your constituents and with your stakeholders on the organizational individual level. And of course, Tom gave a great overview of the history and how things all came together and sort of the overall import of the state plan up front. So I'm just wrapping up with some sort of verbiage that I like to use to couch the state plan moving forward. So for those that know me, I know Sheena's on the call. For me, the state plan is about GSD, and I'm going to be a little impolite here. That means get shit done. It's about getting stuff done for the betterment of the state. Okay. Now, more specifically, it's GPD. It's getting the plan done by that very rapid deadline that Donna threw out there of December 2024, hopefully. And then ultimately, and very importantly, as Donna referenced, it's about getting implementation done. It's about using the plan in the real world for the next couple of decades to help New Jersey achieve what it can achieve. So I view the plan as a framework for the future. It's a vision and inspiration for meeting our challenges and opportunities today and obviously tomorrow. And by tomorrow, I'm talking about 2 decades hence all the way through. For municipalities and counties, and you've heard this before today and probably know this, it's a means to inspire and guide. It is not a mandate, right, to your local governments, but it's meant to inspire and provide guidance and maybe some guide rails on the kinds of things you do and the kind of strategies for investment, to paraphrase what Walter was talking about, that you're going to implement in your municipalities, and obviously, as his examples prove, on the county level. Now, for the state, and its departments and agencies and authorities, it's a means to kind of focus and align our push for prosperity with our collective time, talent, and treasure, because those are the 3 things that we can play with here, so that our resources and even regulations support prosperity on all levels, statewide, countywide, and locally on the municipal level. From a fostering prosperity perspective, our communities, our districts, and the businesses that are their backbone, and obviously the neighborhoods and all these pieces, they succeed as they maintain and enhance their value over time. And this is why we're doing the state plan revision, because we want to support their success. And a lot of people are like, oh, the plan is about managing growth. Well, or it's about causing growth, right? Or determining where growth is. That's sort of true in a way. It's not just about that. Again, I want to get back to that word prosperity. It's about the combination of productivity and fit, which gives you the prosperity. So you could have tons of growth in a certain area, and we've all experienced this, but the community didn't want it. It wasn't appropriate or authentic to that community's goals and values, right? So that's really not prosperity. That's just growth. If you shape that growth to what fits the community's values, you're going to be more successful. You'll have happier, healthier communities, and you'll actually obtain and make prosperity happen. From my perspective, prosperity for, micro level and a business, a neighborhood, a district, a community as a whole, a county, and ultimately a state is created with 4 sources of value. Okay, and so I'm going to just briefly go over those. There's economic value, place value, social value, and civic value, and people are kind of in the heart of all that. So when we think about this, right, so we ask ourselves some questions. Is this community appealing to me as a resident, as a visitor, as an employer or worker? Do I like the way it looks and feels, right? That's place value, okay? And I'll go slightly deeper dive in a minute. Okay, so then another set of questions we can ask is, in this community, do I connect with others? Is it enjoyable to be here? Does society function well here? Can I have a high quality of life over the course of my lifetime? As Donna talked about aging, right? From birth to beyond, right? That's social value, okay? Then we ask questions like, do I want to spend money or invest money here in this place? Can my business succeed here? Can I afford to live here? Those are questions of economic value. And that's something that's all part of this overall prosperity that we're trying to balance here. Again, Don referred to balance in all these things. Same thing for prosperity and including economic growth. And then, lastly, do I feel proud of this place and aligned to it? Does local government work towards prosperity? Does it make decisions that are business friendly and quality of life friendly, et cetera? However that prosperity is defined in that community. And that's civic value. Okay. So let's just briefly look at economic value. I'll see who spots raise your hand if you spot the irony. So, for example, on a micro level, how we curate our districts and their business mixes is pretty important, right? So here's a case where growth, adding that funeral business, does not necessarily make the best fit with the tanning business, or lead to prosperity, right? I understand the tanning business went out of business shortly after this expansion happened. But it's much bigger than this micro level. It's about redevelopment. It's about development at large. It's about the placement or replacement of our crucial economic infrastructure, such as transit, roads, fiber optics, water treatment, and so on. Yes, it's about property values and ultimately impacts property taxes, which impacts our municipalities. But it's a more holistic view of economic value than sometimes we often take. So place value, right? New Jersey has amazing places. And anything we can see or touch in a town, on the shore, up in the mountains, picking blueberries, whatever, that's place value. It's that sort of, I like to say, the horizontal realm in which we live. And anything that impacts our senses tells us that, this is a place we want to be in or not. And ideally, it's the former, right? And that's what we want the state plan to do, is to continue to foster place value. In some cases, that's preservation. In some cases, that's development. In some cases, it's redevelopment. In some cases, it's repair and reassessment. There's different angles to this that we can take, but really, there's the horizontal level place value. But then when you zoom in and you're walking down that boardwalk, or you're walking in that center city, and you can see the historic buildings and the storefronts and the various elements that physically define that place, on the vertical level, that's also part of place value. So there's kind of that micro level, or the tree-lined street on the boulevard that you might drive to, or the bike path through the park. Those are all place value experiences that define how our citizens experience where they live in New Jersey, and frankly, where businesses want to settle and put down roots and make investments. And then there's social value. I mean, this is kind of an obvious thing, with the concert and whatnot. But and this is in South Orange. Shout out to Sheena again at the New Jersey Transit Station downtown there. How do we activate and program our spaces and places, our communities at large? In this case, our downtowns. And to have fun. Social value is the fun quotient, but it's not all about fun. It's also about, how does society work, right? How does it take care of us? So it includes things like healthcare, equity, and environmental justice too, because they form all part of how our society is knit together and works both on the local, county, and statewide level. I mean, showing photos of that's a little harder than showing a concert, so I went with sort of the fun quotient there, but that's all part of social value. And then lastly, there's civic value, and I talked about that, a little bit earlier. So here's an example of Keyport. It's a little bit of a blurry photo, but it's the best I could find at the time. They reinvested in their historic library downtown, and they did that using a combination of state and privately raised funds. through some nonprofit actions, and because the library was civically important to that community, right? Not all communities will agree with that assessment, but Keyport did, and so public and private came together, state funds as well, other things, to renovate and restore that historic library right in the downtown, which is a civic asset, open to the public, addresses civic needs and concerns for that community. You know, that's an example of a project, civic value, but then, you know, the whole council chamber thing is really, you know, where decisions get made, right? Are we going to have an outdoor dining ordinance in our downtown, right, to foster a better sense of social value and civic value and place value and economic value? Or, you know, are we going to look at eliminating parking minimums or reducing them to promote redevelopment in a way that is financially attractive and economically feasible for developers? There's all kinds of things we can do, and I should say NJ Back can be a resource to all of you municipalities out there that are looking for best practice ordinances and really creative and progressive things like that. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can do what I call R&D, which I define as rip off and duplicate. You know, use us as the R&D source, and we can get you ordinance models that you can use and then rip off and duplicate for your municipalities and save a little time, talent, and treasure to do that too. So that's civic value. So at the end of the day, though, while all these four values are equally important, they have different resonances within our stakeholders locally, right? So when you talk about civic value, yes, people want pride in their community for sure, and it's exciting. Social value, having fun, you know, feeling comfortable and you know, and wellness where you live, that's really important, gets people excited. Place value, things where people can see a new facade or a beautiful new park or a vista over the mountains or over the beach. That's wow, that, you know, that really makes New Jersey feel great. And of course, the ultimate one that we often focus on is economic value. And, you know, that's business growth. Again, business growth in the context of fit. Let me clarify that. It's development, redevelopment. It's where are we putting our investment framework, to paraphrase again, Walter's great stuff in Somerset County. I almost wish we called this the state investment framework, because really it is about how we're investing our time, talent, and treasure in the future of the state. But economic value is a key player. And I just want to put it all together by saying that in concert with the other values together, and this balanced approach to the state plan that, you know, Donna and the State Planning Commission are putting forward is how we're going to move towards prosperity statewide, countywide, but for the audience today, especially on the municipal level. And the New Jersey Business Action Center and obviously the Office of State Planning is here to help support you and provide guidance and feedback on all that you do to make that happen. Thank you. Stop share. Okay.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Couple of thoughts just to bring this all together and to bring this all home. So the state plan offers the guidance to the counties and the municipalities to achieve all of these successes. We're never going to be in 100% agreement between all the municipalities, all the counties, and the state. But if we can come to the highest level of consensus through this process, we will be a better state. Land use, I always say that almost every decision a municipality makes, or a mayor makes, or a council makes, has a land use implication. So if you consider it in that context, then we should be able to come with a plan that is not regulatory. We are not a regulatory agency. I can't force a municipality or a county to participate, but this is all guidance to help you make good land use decisions. And that's kind of where we're here. You can see how it's all connected. You can see how us as the State Planning Commission, and while we're waiting for some questions, if Tom wants to make a comment or two, he's still here. That would be great. But it's a balance. We have to protect our shores. We have to protect against climate change. But we also, if we are not economically sustainable, then there's nothing to protect. So how we balance those is the tricky questions. I used to have a boss that used to say to me, it's not easy. If it was easy, anybody can do it. But that's what we're going to attempt to do here. And all of the input from from every stakeholder we're really interested in hearing. So Tom, do you want to add any thoughts before we go to any kind of question?
No, I really appreciated your, Walter and Jeff's presentations. I hope it was helpful for everyone else, but mostly I would just love to hear from others and find out, because it's important to hear what people are thinking and what questions are in their minds.
Donna, while we're waiting for people to drop any questions into the box, if I can ask one,
Sure.
and Tom, if you go back to your days at staff there, you might have remembered me making comments like this back when we were afraid to admit that we were working on the state plan in 2001.
We all survived. We all survived.
We did survive, but I'm going to harken back and bring back a theme that I used to ask about all the time there, and that's the role state agencies will play. You have a process here. You have a timeline that you are, aspirationally looking to wrap up by December 2024 next year. And if you recall at the time, I often made comments that I was concerned about the fact that state agencies didn't seem to buy into the state plan itself, that municipalities and counties went through multiple rounds of cross acceptance in order to advance, again, a bottoms up plan and push something up. And then it got to the commission stage, and it seemed there was disagreement on how the plan should be implemented. So, at the end of the day, after the locals, the counties and the municipalities do their part, what's your vision for the state? What will be the role of the state going forward?
So one of the reasons we want state agency input so early on is because we want their support. If you remember, my last slide talked about implementation. That's where this comes into play. We have huge support through this administration to support it, not only with us doing a plan, but to support it through our state agency partners. Kind of one of the reasons I'm trying to aspirationally get this done by the end of next year is because that gives this administration a year to work on implementation with our state agencies. We're hearing from them today. It's not going to be 100%. We're not going to be able to have these state agencies 100% in alignment with us. But if they can align their incentives, and if they can align what we are determining as growth versus conservation, and align their policies so that it informs their decisions, I think that will be helpful. But you're right, the state agencies need to support this. And I will ask anybody, one of the questions that we're asking in the stakeholder sessions is, who do you think most needs to implement a state plan? And it's state government, county government, municipal government, or other. Please put that in. They need to hear this. I think it's very, very important. I think most state agencies really do support the plan. We do need that implementation step, and we do need to make sure that message comes from the highest level of administration to all of our state agency partners. So we're working on that from now. And so hopefully, I can't promise the world, but all I can say is that's one of my soapboxes, and I don't easily get off my soapboxes.
If I can just to weigh in on that too, Mike, yeah, I absolutely remember that comment last time round. And I think and that's a really valid concern. And I do see this as an opportunity to try to expose, and I can remember the stories of communities coming and saying, one agency is telling us we have to do this, and the other one is saying we can do anything but that, and where do these reconcile? I do think that in the last 20 years, many of the concepts and the ideas about the state plan have gone from being kind of fringe ideas to much more accepted, and have becoming more part of the DNA of the code of how the agencies work. But I don't think that we're done by a long shot. And I do really think that this is an opportunity for communities to put out there, hey, these are times when we get contradictory comments from agencies, and to talk it through. And what you do have from the commission is a commitment. And I want to say, I think I can speak now for, all of the commissioners really have, and I've been so impressed by the team that we have, and I'm very fortunate to work with the rest of them, are willing to roll up their sleeves and take a hard look at these things and talk about them and try to figure out how we can reconcile those. But this is one of the very valuable opportunities, is for communities not just to kind of come forward and say, here are places where we're getting contradictory advice from different agencies, and the state plan provides us an opportunity to sort that out. And I think some of them have been sorted out over 20 years, but I'm sure that doesn't mean we're perfect, and some still remain. And so I really welcome, I think that that's one of the undeniable benefits of doing this process, is to have a chance to bring forward those kinds of incongruous, inconsistent situations, and have a real conversation at all levels of government about how best to move forward.
And also, Sheena just put in the chat in solid caps, local government, every planning board typically passes redevelopment plans. That should be consistent with the state development and redevelopment plan. Frankly, there are many planning board and zoning board officials that don't even know there is a state plan. So a lot of what we want to do now is get out there and do an education piece. In fact, that's what the focus of the session that we're going to do at your conference is going to be on, what the state plan is, what it's not, and how it can help you make good land use decisions for that prosperity that Jeff was talking about. This is not only just an exercise in land use planning. It's how do you use good land use practices to ensure your profitability and your prosperity. So I think local government plays a role. We play a role at the state. And I think the county plays a huge role in that connection piece in providing resources and even just technical assistance as well. Christine says, what is the role of the regional planning entities? So the state plan does not have authority over those three regional planning entities. They are on our interagency work group because their plans and our plans should align. And they do align. There's like, little tweaks that are not exactly the same, but for the most part, the Highlands Master Plan, which the state plan did endorse, I believe it was 2 years ago, does pretty much align with what the state plan says. They're definitely part of this planning process, although they don't technically, we don't have authority over those three. It's obviously they're statutorily authorized to control their portion of the state, but we should absolutely be aligned with them. They should be part of this planning process, which they are. And we will take their comments just as seriously as we take everybody else. So yeah, they absolutely belong in this process, and they'll be there. So Mike, you wrote session at 108th Annual League Conference. Tuesday, there it is, Tuesday at 10:45. Please show up. Some of it's going to be for feedback, but some of it's going to be sort of an education piece. And the other thing we will want to do, if municipalities and counties want us, we want to be able to, if we're asked to be at a planning board meeting or a zoning board meeting, to speak to your residents about why this is important for the quality of life. They may not understand some of the planning concepts, but they understand quality of life. They understand how it's difficult to afford to live in New Jersey. They understand how it's hard to take care of their parents. But if we can provide that education to the residents in language they can understand in terms of quality of life, then please we'll do that as well. So we're open for suggestions. So glad that's final. Better than the Super Bowl. Thank you, Sheena. Said it's better than the Super Bowl.
I think that depends on who's playing in the Super Bowl personally, but
Well, not the Giants or Jets, I think, so.
not this year,
Not
no.
this year. Not this year. So yeah, the message here is we are out there. There are benefits for both counties and municipalities to participate, and we want to hear your voices. I will be updating those few slides to add those additional resources for public comment. We'll send it to the league. I guess, Mike, do you guys put it on your website? You put
We do. We do.
Okay, we'll get that out to you. So in a day or so, you'll be able to get that. If you want to reach out to me directly, I'll put my email address there. Most people know how to get me, donna.rendiro@sos.nj.gov. I guess it's showtime.
It is. Well, Donna, Tom, Jeff, Walter, thank you for joining us today. Thank you all for participating and listening. I don't see any more questions in the box, so I think we can wrap up. I did put in the box the information on the conference session. That's actually the first quadrant of programs for the league conference session, which is 42 days away. Not that I'm counting. 6 weeks from today, we launch it, and that program is probably a good start to the event. So I hope you all can join us. Thank you all again for participating in this. And I guess, Donna, you're in for an interesting year and a half.
I certainly am. I'm either going to need a lot of coffee or a lot of alcohol.
Well, or maybe both.
Or both.
As circumstances may be. But thank you for being here today, and we'll continue this discussion and dialogue in Atlantic City.
Great.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.